Welcome to the Kids with Big Emotions podcast. I am your host, Andy Clark, and today we have with us Safiya, who is an occupational therapy, and she also does some other modalities, some other ways of working with kids that I'm really excited to dive into, and we can start finding out some of these ways that you may not have heard of before. So I will let Safiya, though, introduce herself, and you have three kids yourself, so that's already a big feat. So I will let you tell us about what it is that you do and how you help kids.
Okay. So I'm Safiya Omosanya, and I am an occupational therapist. I got my degree back in 1999. And I have literally worked in pretty much every setting. So that was a good thing about occupational therapy. We can work in different settings. And what I have found that my favorite is learning about mental health. So I'm nationally board certified occupational therapist with a specialty in mental health, meaning I've taken all of the continuing education classes in mental health, and I'm usually there with a lot of psychotherapists and counselors. I'm one of the OTs that is there that's like diving into mental health stuff. In 2012, I was trained in EFT, emotional freedom techniques. It's becoming more popular now. When I learned it in 2012, it wasn't as popular, but it is becoming much more popular now. I'm just curious, have you heard of EFT, emotional freedom techniques?
I have as well, I have definitely, and that's one thing I
Yeah.
did want to dive into with you today. Occupational therapy, and then you've started getting into the traumas and stuff with kids.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I ask from that then? So just so that
Mhm.
people understand. So occupational therapy, what is that? And
Mhm.
how does occupational therapy, what is the connection between traumas?
There's a slogan for OT, which is we help people live life to the fullest. So basically, whatever is in the way of a person living their fullest life, occupational therapist helps them work on that. So depending on whatever setting it is, like I said, because occupational therapists can work with zero to the oldest person I ever worked with, I think was like 95. Right. So there's like so whatever is in the way of one living their fullest life, occupational therapists can address that. So as far as the connection with trauma, I would say I personally have taken extra classes, like I said, with specializing in mental health, because when you are working with humans, that is best, especially in today's society, to be trauma informed and to understand trauma. So that was me personally taking that step to get further training. And the fortunate thing is occupational therapy is like a wide enough field that we had that option to be able to get into learning about trauma.
Yeah.
So
So if what I'm hearing you say is correct, so the occupational therapy is more where you're really helping them with things that they need for their daily life. So you're working with what they need in order to do their daily life,
mhm,
and with which I think you're discovering a lot of what I've discovered as well in working with individuals as me as like sleep and stress coaching is
mhm,
that traumas can really play a large part in affecting how somebody manages their day to day, a lot of the things that are
mhm,
happening with them. And we don't always give these traumas the onus or the attention that they deserve. And correct me if I'm wrong on this because I'm not sure what traumas you do work with because I know I work with responders, so I'm working with like really crazy traumas,
mhm,
but then also I realized through working with them that some of their traumas were not the calls that they're going to, the 911 calls and the deaths and things like that. Quite often it was their dog passing. I know working
mhm,
with somebody, so it can be these small things. And then in working with kids, I've found that yes, there are the horrible traumas that we do associate with as traumas, but those are
mhm,
big T traumas. But then we also discover these little T traumas that could be a child that can get things and all of a sudden they make mistakes, and the
mhm,
perfectionism or things that kids say to them at times or things like that
mhm.
can become traumas in these kids too. So can we talk too
Absolutely.
about like that span of what a trauma can
Oh
be.
yeah. Oh
We
yeah.
have the big traumas people know about. Can we talk about some of the traumas that a parent wouldn't even realize could be a trauma?
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay. So first, let me just first touch on some of the big T traumas and what people think trauma is. And then I'm gonna give a little background about myself and we'll kind of dive into that. First, we'll go with the what is called adverse childhood experiences. And maybe a lot of people haven't heard of that, but there is something called adverse childhood experiences. There's a whole quiz out there and there's 10 questions and it's looking at things like excuse me, let me take a little sip of water. There are things like the big traumas, physical abuse, sexual abuse, those like major things that people think about when we talk about adverse childhood experiences, right? But there's also something called an extended ACE. And so when I started learning about trauma, I remember thinking like, oh, well, I didn't have any traumas, right? That's what I thought. First of all, when I learned about the extended ACEs, so I do recommend anybody who watches this, if they haven't aren't familiar with the ACEs study, to look into that, take the quiz, just kind of see, because it's very helpful. But then there's something called the extended ACE, okay? And now that's where bullying is an extended ACE. And that is something that I experienced when I was in seventh grade. And so that is a trauma. Living in a violent community, that is a trauma. Things like that, right? So that's under the extended ACE. But what I really found fascinating as I dove into the trauma world, that a lot of parents are inadvertently traumatizing their children. And it could be, I don't even want to use the word trauma. I'm going to just say wounding, okay, for a moment, but not attuning to a kid that may be in distress, right? So you have this kid, they have big feelings, and you push it aside and you don't attune to them and you tell them to shut up or things like that they used to do. I know back in the day, it was really bad the way parents did. They didn't have the education, but not attuning to the kid and over again. That actually causes a wound in the kid. And that kind of takes their system into a fight or flight response. Because here they are, they have these emotions and they're not able to get processed and moved out of the body. And that's what emotions are supposed to do. So they get stuffed down. And those stuffed emotions can wreak havoc in the body because they're like chemicals in the body. And then they can cause the body to go into a fight or flight. And here, this kid now internally, there's a lack of feeling safety. So, what I found being in the trauma space is trauma isn't just about this big event, it's what happens inside. It's something that overwhelms the system, and then there's no person to hold them through it. So if they were to experience something, but then there was someone to hold them through that, then it wouldn't register in the system as a trauma. It would be something that happened, but it wouldn't stay with them and affect them for the rest of their lives. So a lot of the times, the person that is doing the wounding is the parent. And even if it may be a well meaning parent, just not attuning to the kid and their needs and their emotions can then traumatize the kid.
Yeah. And what you're saying is so true. I know, like in working with people, and when I got into working more with kids as well, that's when I started to see too, is the parents, because we have what you said too, the old style of parenting, which is
Mhm.
slowly making a shift, but it is the way we were always parented, right?
Oh yeah.
And if we're making that shift and our parents, us, me as a parent,
Hmm.
our parents, so the grandparents, are like,
Hmm.
oh, you're too easy with that child, or you're not doing,
Hmm.
because you're not doing the old style of parenting. So
Hmm.
we're in that middle where we're
Hmm.
trying to make these changes, but we're also being told that what we're doing in these changes is wrong because the old style is what they know.
Yes.
So we're coming from this part where we're trying to switch this, but as a parent, we're navigating new territory too. So we're definitely going to make mistakes as well.
Mhm.
So when we're saying that these parents as well are sometimes the way that they're trying to help or support or do things with their child,
Mhm.
that they could be traumatizing them, it's not that the parents are to blame. We're
Mhm.
always, as a parent, I always say this, we're always doing the best as we can as a parent, but we
Mhm.
are always going to make mistakes with our kids as well,
Mhm.
as we're learning and navigating it. So there's that one piece you said. And
Yeah.
then that other piece as well, if we start looking at generational traumas as well.
Oh, ooh,
So
yes.
we have, so if we were also had parents that yelled at us, or and then we ended up getting really quiet and shut down, or we had something where maybe our parents divorced and we decided, oh, we really need to fix things all the time, then we become, where I talk about like where the animals, where we have the shark and the clownfish or the
Mhm.
turtle are three
Mhm.
stress signs. And if you're like a clownfish, always needing to fix things for your child and always needing to worry about them and all of that, you are doing that quite often because of a trauma that was experienced to you as the parent,
Yes, yes,
and that is affecting your child as well.
yes.
So we're doing this absolutely unintentionally. We're doing this because we're actually trying to prevent something that happened to us as a child, and we're doing it with the best intentions out there,
Mhm.
but because we have not realized that we had traumas, which I'm the same as you. When I started going to therapy and stuff, it was because I was working with responders and I was like, okay, I need to go to these therapies so that I can teach them what they're like, so that they can go and I can bridge that gap to get them there. And once I got there and I went, oh my God, I do have traumas. Like, we don't realize,
Yeah,
only know what we know. And we didn't realize that we were doing things to protect ourselves. We didn't
right.
realize that we're doing things because of that old style of parenting or because of our parents' trauma. And it just
Mhm.
keeps extending down until we break that pattern. And I believe that we are the generation that is starting to break those generational traumas.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
until we actually start really putting in the work and being vulnerable, then we are going to continue to pass along traumas to our kids unintentionally.
Absolutely. And it's just, again, I got to tell you what happened today. I'm like, oh, this is great. I can share this. I have a daughter that is 10 and she's very sensitive. And today I was late picking her up from school and she was just getting ready to go and they were going to take her into the office. And I was with my oldest daughter and we were able to get her just as they were going in. And she came to the car. Her face looked sad, and then she just burst into tears. And the first thing I did was I let her get it out, and I just held my hand out, okay, so she could hold my hand. My oldest daughter is 20, and she immediately went into, oh, I'm sorry. Mom was with me, and we were late because, and I told her, I said, stop, let her finish processing first, right? So I learned how to work with a kid and their emotions. Let her get that out first before we start explaining, because right now her amygdala is lighting up. There's nothing here, okay? And so she's not going to get it, right? I don't know what made me decide to turn things into a lesson, but because I'm a cycle breaker and I want my kids to fortunately pick up from the work. So I was educating my daughter because one day she'll be a parent. I said, let me show you some different ways that different parents would handle this. So the first way, I said, when she came out, I would have said, oh, stop crying. We got you in time anyway. When I was a kid, that happened to me all the time, dismissive. And when I talked about earlier about things like that, not attuning, things like that's the type of things that register as a trauma. She felt abandoned in that moment, right? And so I'm just going to dismiss her. Then I said, okay, here comes this. Let me show you the second style. And then it was like, oh, I'm so sorry, baby. I was late. I know what it's like when I was a kid. I was abandoned too. I'll never do this to you again. And that's softer, right? And then when I was doing that, my daughter's, oh, it's okay, mom. I was like, no, I'm acting. But then she felt like she needed to like say I'm sorry to me. So no, it's no longer about her. Now I put it on me. Like I'm such in distress as the parent that I put her in distress. Now she's comforting me.
And
Right?
she needs
That
to parent you.
yes, yes. And that's how my mom was. Like she didn't have the tools. Loving mother, but that she didn't have the tools. And then the third one is, oh, it's okay. Here, let's go buy you some food, make it better. That's dismissing, always a little kinder, but it's still not letting her be with and process what was coming up for her. So what happens is when kids aren't allowed to be with and process, shows up later in the future, right? So I've worked with a lot of adults and relational issues. This is why like divorce is so high. People don't know, people don't have emotional intelligence. And it's understandable why, because back in the day, they did not have this information. We have new information now, fortunately. So I just went over the different scenarios with my oldest to tell her, show her how that works and how just letting her process and be with those uncomfortable feelings. And then when she was better, then we talked about it and she was fine. And now she's not left with this like abandonment wound. So just wanted to share that story.
No, that's great. It's so important too. And I love how you're teaching the older one as well, who instantly wants to console and be fixed, do the clownfish. And that's the thing, is that we have been taught as well that when you do dote on somebody, when you are constantly consoling them and helping to fix, that is showing your love, which when it's not in clownfish, when it's in dolphin, it's love. When you're doing it in from a clownfish space, from a trauma, from a stress space in your body, then that is what your child feels. They feel that you need to make sure that they are okay and they're not crying, whereas crying's okay.
Exactly.
Sit and are completely okay that they're crying, and you're like, it's okay to feel this way. Let them have those emotions and process them, and then talk about it and work through it. And what can we do different next time once they're ready? That's all done in dolphin. And that's very different, fixing in dolphin versus clownfish. Yeah. So let's talk about EFT a little bit. So what is EFT?
EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. And it's basically like what I learned when we were trained in it was that it's like Eastern medicine meets modern psychology. So we are tapping on these points on our like face and body. We're using our fingers. There's some of the same points that an acupuncturist would put needles in, but we're using our fingers to tap on it. And so whatever is coming up for us and causing us distress, we tap, we get it out. It's sending a signal to the amygdala saying you can down regulate, the person is safe, it's okay.
The amygdala is, what is the amygdala?
Oh, it's a part of the brain, part of the limbic system in the brain. That's the part that says there's danger, threat, sound the alarm. The fight or flight system gets activated, and that's when we feel all of those chemicals, cortisol and adrenaline and all of those things, right? So it actually that down regulates the amygdala, and because you're tapping on these points, it's sending a signal to the amygdala like, nope, you're safe, you're okay. So you're bringing up the issue while tapping at the same time, and it neutralizes. And it's just amazing to see it work in action. And that was something that I did with my kids when they were young, when I first started. I'm better now. I'm not even like that anymore. But back when I first learned it, I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit too high strung. And they'd be like, okay, I don't want to tap. Leave me alone, leave me alone. So have them, tapping on anything that causes distress. Now they come to me, my oldest ones, and say, Mom, my middle daughter started her senior year the other day in high school. So I'm nervous. I need you to tap with me. It's like, okay, let's do this. But it was a time when she was like running from me when she was young because I was having them tapping.
That's what we're saying too. The difference between when you're trying to help them from clownfish, I need to fix this, I need to do this, versus I'm doing the same thing, but I'm helping you from dolphin when I'm calm and connected.
Yes. And that was the thing. I was too attached. And at the time, honestly, I hadn't even fully dove into the trauma world. I didn't understand it. When I would be having them do it, it was to make them feel better, to make the negative emotions go away.
Because you weren't doing what you did with your daughter today in letting her have her emotions.
I was not.
It's almost like we have been taught in our style of parenting that just in society that having a quote unquote negative emotion, so sadness, anxiety, fear, whereas
Mhm.
your daughter being nervous about school, great thing.
Yes,
It
of
means she's
course.
scared. It means she's excited. It means there's new things. It means she's going to be pushing herself out of her comfort zone
Mhm.
and letting her know that, oh my goodness, this is great. We also have the
Mhm.
tools to help to calm that a little bit so you can continue to push your boundaries,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And
Big
we
difference.
yeah, right. And we're doing it from dolphin. So
Yes.
it's absolutely the same thing. And we get discomfort from seeing somebody else in discomfort. And as a
Mhm.
parent, we need to learn that it's okay. There are times too where my son is struggling to do something or struggling with a friend, and I just sit there and listen and I don't say anything. I don't offer any advice
Yes.
whatsoever. And I am in my mind constantly saying, don't say anything, don't say it. He doesn't want to hear it. He's not ready for it. He needs to feel this discomfort. He needs to
Mhm.
sit in this for a while. And I'm sitting there. And sometimes once I will say, if you want help with this at all, just let me know. He'll be like, no,
Mhm.
I'm fine. I'm like, okay. And I
They just
just,
want to get it out. Just let them process it.
yes. And that's the thing is that we've become this, it's almost because we want, okay, I'm going to backtrack on that because possibly with the older style of parenting, we were told to shut it out, don't have it, don't do it, all of this
Mhm.
stuff, and we weren't helped and supported. Now we're going to the other end of the pendulum where we want to
Mhm.
be fixing and helping and supporting. So we
Yeah.
went from that total almost shark mixed with a turtle of the into now this clownfish
Mm,
where both of them are because we don't want to see the child be in discomfort.
yep.
And
That's
if
it.
we start letting them understand how to work through their own discomfort, then they start putting themselves out there more. They start being okay when things happen, when they don't get a good grade, or a friend doesn't want to go out and do something with them, or they don't
Mhm.
win first place or third and
Mhm.
they don't get an award, right? Then they start being okay with that discomfort
Right.
and learning about seeing it from a different light and from a different lens so that it doesn't become like that trauma for them in saying, oh my God, like I have anxiety. Now this is a bad thing because anxiety can
Yeah.
be a good thing. It can warn you of danger.
Yeah, yeah, that right there is the thing. And I think that's what causes a lot that I know that's what causes a lot of addictions because it's like this feel there's something uncomfortable. I don't know what to do with it. Nobody ever taught me what to do with this. Let me go turn to this thing to make this go away. And
Numbing.
so that's that
No, yeah.
numbing. Absolutely.
Yeah, and we get into that, and that's the thing is we need to have these kids be able to handle different adversities and handle the discomfort, and we need to be okay with them having discomfort, them being connected in that before they're going to be okay with that.
Yes,
Yeah,
which means that we have to do our own work
exactly,
because
right?
we got to be able to feel it within ourselves.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, as a parent, it is a much easier idea to just send our kids to somebody to help fix them without doing any
Of
work on
course.
ourselves.
Of
It's not
course.
realistic, but
Of course.
it does sound
Yeah.
so much better and
Oh
easier
yeah. Yeah.
than actually us doing the work on ourselves too
Yeah.
before we also do it with the kids. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So going back to what you said about EFT, so it's
Yes.
fascinating too because my whole background too is in the nervous system and in the whole body and the stress system. And when I'm always thinking of traumas too, I always think about how when a trauma is so a trauma is always something that's too fast, too soon, too much that we're not
Mhm.
ready for of
Mhm.
anything. So those become a trauma. But what happens is that it hits that neural pathway in our brain. So that nerve gets affected. And so when you're doing EFT, you're actually, when they're talking about the trauma, they're actually getting that nerve to start kicking in. And then the EFT is tapping on it in a way that's letting that nerve go, we're okay, we're
Mhm.
safe, we're good here. So what you're doing is you're retraining the neural pathway. So I do
Yes.
this when I'm doing internal family system, I'm doing parts work, I'm doing the with my
Mhm.
clients, and
Mhm.
you're doing it from EFT. And this is the
Yeah.
thing that I love about all of these modalities is that sometimes they do a similar thing. It's the same gift with different wrapping paper. And
Yeah. Yeah.
people get to choose which wrapping paper do I want on that gift. I want this result.
Exactly.
and how do I want to get it there? Do I want to work on my parts? Do I want to do EFT?
Yeah,
How
and
do
I
I
think
want to do?
parts is big. I know for sure. I wanted to sign up for this webinar that was EFT meets IFS, but for what the page I couldn't get the link to work. I sent them an
Oh man.
email because that would have been super cool.
Oh, amazing.
IFS meets EFT. Yeah,
Oh yeah. As I'm working on parts, if I knew the EFT and I could be tapping somebody while I'm doing
yeah,
virtual, but you could
yeah,
be teaching them virtually where to
yeah.
while we're working on parts.
Oh
It would
yeah.
be phenomenal. But that's a different wrapping paper on the same. And that's the thing is that, so just for the people, if you do think more from a science base for anybody that is listening, so with EFT, the nerve always has that trauma built into it. And so when you're doing the EFT, you're exciting that nerve, you're bringing
Mhm,
that trauma back into, like, you're turning on that nerve that kicks in
mhm,
when that trauma kicks in for you. And the
mhm.
EFT helps to let that nerve know it's okay. And you start retraining that nerve to calm down. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's
And it's
amazing.
a different, the person ends up with a different physiological response. So there's no longer that activation. Like the memory might be there, but it doesn't have that charge anymore
Mhm.
because it's been neutralized with the
Yeah,
using EFT. So it's very powerful.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we're looking at this though, so what we've talked about is so important in
Mhm.
understanding that when our kids are struggling, it does not mean that their struggles are because of the parent. At the same time, the parent working on themselves is going to help the child heal faster.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be several factors. This is what I'll say what helped me a lot is Gabor Mate. I'm sure you've heard that name, Gabor Mate, but he's a trauma specialist. And he talked about the things that what kids need to be able to thrive. And so he said that they need emotionally regulated caregiver to help them through their emotions. They need to be able to the kids need to be able to express all their emotions and not think that any of them are bad because all of them have a purpose. They need to be able to just be the authentic self and not have to perform to get love. I think those were the most important things. So I think that a lot of wounding does happen with the caregivers. Sometimes it could be teachers, but I think it does. And if you do have like I said, you can have a well-meaning. My mom was a well-meaning mom, had lots of love. Her kids would have done anything, right? But she had her own wounds, traumas. She had traumas, a lot of traumas that were never addressed. That spills into the parenting. And then also too, our children inherit our nervous systems. So if we are our nervous systems are stuck in survival, which a lot of people are from especially from old school, our kids are gonna inherit that. So that's why it is super important. And then some kids do come here with more sensitive nervous systems and temperaments. So that is important. But I do think a lot of wounding does come through the caregivers, even the most loving, best loving parents possible. It's just that they have their own stuff. And so I think you cannot go wrong. It's a win-win if you do your own work. Like that pretty much helps a lot because even if you had a kid and it had nothing to do with you at all, it's your parenting, you can help support them and they can borrow your nervous system because when kids are young, they don't have the ability to self-regulate. They need a regulated adult to co-regulate with them until they can learn to self-regulate. So it's so important.
Yes. And I do want anybody that's listening to this to understand that does not mean, so how do I word this? So we have are a society that has certain benchmarks for certain things. So at a certain age is when your child should be able to go to a birthday party without you there. At a certain age, your child will be able to go to a friend's house without you there. a certain age, this child should be able to go to a sports and you should be able to leave and not be there. And I don't like those society rules per se, because one of my kids, who, it's fascinating because he's also a very independent child. He's way more independent than my other child, but his nervous system was taxed, as you said, with this nervous system. So he's my youngest. My kids are 19 months apart. And I was probably in burnout with my first one, but I was 1,000% in burnout with my second one. I barely could get, my battery was barely even charged to even get out of bed if we even said it was charged. Like, it was beyond exhausting. And so my second son showed so many signs of stress, of all of that, of nervous system struggles. And that was like, I swear, it was because my nervous system didn't have the capabilities for him, which is why I became a stress coach, right? And so in working through that, like, he had all of the stress signs growing up, like when he was first born, like it was unbelievable. And through helping him and all of that, though, his nervous system has needed me there more. So it's only been the last, he's 12 now, almost 13. There's been a huge shift in him, but like for the longest time, I would still stay at parties. And then even so, tonight he's at Pokemon right now, down the street. It's at a store. They play Pokemon, all the friends, all the other parents would leave and I would stay because he needed me there. I didn't talk to him. I didn't do anything, but I was that calm, present parent that he needed in order to stay calm. So if he was struggling, he would come and just stand by me. Sometimes we talk, sometimes we wouldn't, whatever, but knowing I was there. And then it got to where I could be outside, but he knew I was still close, to now, like, he's down the street. It's like a 20-minute walk and he's fine. He's good.
Yes.
But that was like 12 years old and he's an independent child. So it's not like I had to do anything for him, but he would have outbursts. So he would lose his cool quicker if I wasn't there. But sometimes he just needed to almost borrow my calm energy in the middle of chaos with a friend or losing a game, like losing a game and that fear of it being lost, all that stuff. So it's like, we do think my other kid was okay for me leaving him alone here. And it's like, you can't even compare your own kids, because if one nervous system is more taxed,
exactly,
and one kid is more sensitive,
yes,
then they are the one that may need you around more often, and it's exhausting. Like, we used to call my son my magnet. Right? Like, he needed to be around me all of the time, like all of the time. And it was exhausting, but he was very dysregulated when he wasn't.
Yeah.
And I had to learn that this wasn't a crutch for him. It was actually what his nervous system needed to be co-regulated.
Yes, absolutely.
And when he said it was okay to go, I would go, and we would talk about how long I could go away from him for. And then I'd come back at a certain time. And so we were able to start increasing that as he could. But the days that his stress system were really struggling, we couldn't. And the days that he was doing good, he was good. So it's also going to depend with the child on the day.
Yeah, it's all about safety and just how much safety needs to, because that's what it's about. Even as adults, when we have to reparent ourselves, it's the safety wasn't there. When you're dysregulated, you're not in safety. So he needed you to come and give him that co-regulation. And like you said, the whole milestone thing, screw all of that. It's about helping him. So thank goodness he had a mom like you that did that for him, or is doing that for him. I think it's necessary.
And I'm going to tell you, like, sitting at Pokemon for 2 hours every single Thursday night, or on Saturdays for 3-4 hours while there's a like tournament going on, and it's all kinds of kids, these neurodiverse kids, it smells of BO. It's like this whole thing, right? And all the other parents leave, and I'm still there. It was not fun all the time.
No, of course not.
I thought I could be doing, but he needed me to be there, so I did. And same thing when I pulled him from school, like, I kept getting so many calls from school, and every time, as soon as I'd bring him home, as soon as he was around me, you would just see him instantly calm. And you could think some parents might see that and go, they're calm. Like, how were they not calm in school? They're calm around me. Take that as an account, as you as the parent, that they actually find you safe.
Yes.
Take that as the compliment for the parent. That means they find you safe. And if you find that with your spouse or with other kids, like your other children, they may be calmer around one of your other kids and they may get more wound up around one of your other kids
Mhm.
because one of your other kids might be more of a shark or more of a clownfish,
Mhm.
like turtle. So
Yeah.
that's the fascinating thing too, is that my youngest that we've been talking about, his other brother's a turtle. And that
Mm.
actually aggravates the other one. Don't
Mm.
answer my question. I just want to know this. And
Um,
he's feeling neglected and unsafe because
yeah.
his brother will just completely ignore him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you start seeing that a certain sibling sometimes in certain moments is safe to them. And then in other
Mhm.
moments when they're doing things becomes unsafe.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I definitely see that over here in my home too. And it's something that the nervous system is the neuroception. Am I safe or I'm in danger? And in that moment, when someone doesn't acknowledge you or ignores you, it, that's the lack of safety.
If that's your love language, if that's
Mhm.
and being acknowledged or being like
Yeah.
having those close conversations, and
Yeah.
they're not acknowledging you at all, then you're
Yeah.
like, they don't love me. They're mad at me.
Yeah.
They're
Yes.
not.
That's how my daughter talks like that. You don't love me. She's ignoring me. That's how she talks.
Yeah. And it's finding their love
Mhm.
language. So my one son,
Mhm.
it's touch is first, and then the second one is that being able to actually have those deep conversations with him. He needs
Mm.
to talk it out. Whereas the other one is so quiet.
Mm.
And he needs you to be silent for a while for him until he will talk.
That's
So
so
it's fascinating, and those are the opposites. So it's really understanding your child and what they
yeah.
need to.
Yeah, each kid needs to be treated differently. And
Mhm.
I think that's a lot of parents need to understand because it's so easy. And yeah, they're not the same. And their
Right?
nervous systems are not the same. And their
Mhm.
temperaments are not the same.
And their love
And
languages, and
not the
yeah,
same. Right. Yeah.
there's so
So
much, which is the coolest thing, that they could come from the same parents, have such different personalities and needs and
Mhm.
all of that. And at the same time, it can be so like puzzling to try to figure out what it is in each of them, which I love that those puzzles. Amazing.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh. Safiya, this has been like so phenomenal. Like what you talked about today is what I'm always trying to talk about with parents too. So I'm so grateful to hear it from another voice, another expert. It's phenomenal. And parents need to know that when when these parents are, reacting in a way that might not be a connected way for their parents, it's not because they're bad parents.
No.
We're all doing our best with the skills that we've learned. And now hopefully in them hearing this too, they'll go, maybe I could do some more work on myself. So
Yeah.
before we go, we will give everybody all ways to contact you and how they can connect with you. But before we go, is there anything that you feel we haven't touched on yet that you feel parents need to hear or need to know about anything, maybe anything I haven't even asked you about, or EFT or
Yeah.
anything that you do?
I think, yeah, I just want to emphasize the power of doing one's own internal work and kind of where to start. The first place would be, I would say, is to learn how to regulate the nervous system. Because I wasn't always, like, as I have a 10, 17, and 20-year-old, and I have this amazing, they're all girls, but I have this amazing relationship with all of them and my teens. I'm close, well, teens, I forget because my 20-year-old, she's no longer a teen, but my young adult and my teen, they just think that mom is just like the best thing ever. And they talk to me and tell me everything. And just to have that close connected relationship, and it wasn't always like that. I started off old school a little bit and just kind of out of control, and the yelling and just not knowing what to do. And I didn't know. And then again, when I learned EFT, like trying to get them to feel better and just being attached. And what has been most helpful is learning how to regulate my own nervous system. That's like the first thing, because I just want to say I tried like different things where, oh, how to stop yelling and start connecting. And I used to try, like I tried to change at the behavior level, and I would just get triggered and then that would go out the door. Like I even had talks with them like, okay, girls, the next time mommy gets triggered, just remind me to get back into my body. Now that's not their responsibility, right? So they'd be like, get back into your body. And I'd be like, shut up. And just, "Rawr." And so if your nervous system is dysregulated, which why wouldn't it be if I didn't have the regulated parents growing up and they had their own traumas and things like that? Again, they did the best that they could, but I just didn't have the tools, the skills. I just didn't have a clue. And so once I started working on regulating my system and becoming present, it was like easy for me. Like all of the yelling and out of control and all of that just went away. And then it was easy for me to then have this connected relationship. And then my children really started to trust me and feel safe with me, and then start to model that as well. So I just wanted to say that doing the work yourself as a parent, like, it's a must. Like, you really can't skip it, because like I know people that have had their kids out getting help, but then they got to come back to the home. And if you're not working on your own system, it's going to affect them. I'm sorry. Like, once they get out the house, that's a little different if they're not in the house with you. But if they're in the house with you, you do really have to do your own work. And I would start with working on regulating the system. And then me personally, like, I work with people to help them to break those cycles. They're like, I'm ready to be a cycle breaker. I didn't get a good example growing up, and I want something different because I know this isn't working. That's what I help people to do. The first thing is to start to regulate the nervous system. That's the number one thing I would recommend. So that's what I'd like to kind of leave with.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I just want people to know too that I also was the parent that yelled. I would, yeah. So we did like, I remember the small things. I would get upset. I would get upset at like my spouse. And it's just, it really did take me working on myself without realizing that I needed the work, as we said at the start too, that things started to shift. So we may not even realize we need the help because we still may be doing all the things that people are saying you can do. Like you said, you tried different courses and stuff. I was trying all the things. And it was only once I really started doing the work on myself, working on my traumas, working on my nervous system, all the stuff that you're saying as well, is when it shifted for me. And that's as well when, my kids too. It's like such a shift in that. No, we're so paralleled on so much. Amazing. All right. So for our audience, if they want to work with you, I guess I have a question too about your licensing. Are you only available in your state? Can you work out of your state? Can you work online?
Yeah, I can. Yes, I can, because I don't work under the occupational therapy. I'm a trauma-informed life coach. So so I work with people under the coaching.
So you can work with anybody anywhere.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. I love that. Okay, that's me too, right? That's my one thing. I was like, I don't know if I want to become a psychotherapist because
exactly.
But my training with IFS is the same as they get. It's just the coach, because then I can only deal with people in my province.
Exactly.
And I work with people in North America and the UK. So same thing. All right. So for people to find you, we're going to put everything in the show notes. So we have a link for people to book a call with you. And then we also have your LinkedIn. And I love that you are not mainly on social media. Like, that just me. I want to get there too. So we have your LinkedIn and we have your book a call.
Okay. And the call is complimentary. It's break the cycle. I want to break the cycle, a complimentary call. So
amazing. So we'll put those into the show notes and we'll let everybody know. So thank you so much for this today. I think this was very
pleasure.
And everybody go to the show notes, book a call with Safiya, and just start working on yourself, because trust me, you will be happier, you will be calmer, and you will just definitely build that better relationship with your kids as well.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And we will see you in the next episode. Before you go, also go to the show notes for my information as well. If you'd like to work with me, I have my booking call as well is in the show notes, and other ways that you can contact me. Reach out to both of us and start your journey today. Honestly, you will be so much happier. And we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Bye.